So we come to the end of 2024, and I have been doing a lot of reflecting over this past year and the great releases we've been having on physical media, in particular the Blu-ray box set, and I have been wrestling with myself to select 5 box sets to present to you today as my top box sets of the year. And I couldn't pick 5, actually. I have 6. So you're getting 6 of what I think are the creme de la creme of Blu-ray box sets in 2024. This list is of course catered to my tastes. Yours will be very different, but even if you can just take one of these recommendations for something to add to your own collection or just films to watch and explore, then my job here will be done. Let's kick things off with a release from one of my favourite labels in the UK. And in fact, all of the labels featured in this video are some of my favourite labels. But the release I want to talk about here is this one, Colombia Horror from Indicator. Now, if you've been paying attention to what Indicator have been doing in the boutique Blu-ray space over the past, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, no, not 10 years, but it's getting close to 10 years, they have been making excellent box sets. And this one is certainly no different. Even when the films included in a box set might not be all of the same quality in terms of my own enjoyment of the films, the way they present them and then the additional features and the discussions around these films, it all just creates a brilliant experience for exploring films, learning about films, and enjoying it at the same time. With this set, they explore some of the B-movies that Colombia made during the 1930s and 1940s. All of these have horror elements to them, but some of them are more horror than others, but they are very enjoyable B-movies. There is so much talent and technique on display in these films that it would be a shame just to disregard them as throwaway B-movies of the period. As always, Indicator make a very stylish looking box set as well, which you can display in your own collection, and the films are included in these thin digipack cases, and there is a booklet as well. So Colombia Horror, one of my favourite box sets of the year, and I do hope we see a volume 2 in the future. Number 5 on my list, something I talked about very recently, it's Hitchcock The Beginning from Studio Canal. This is a box set exploring the early works of the great master of cinema, Alfred Hitchcock, some of his silent films and his early sound work, all presented here, some of them from very new 4K restorations, and there are lots of special features across the disc. Many of these films weren't available on Blu-ray before this release, so as a strong fan of Hitchcock, I had to get this, and it is absolutely one of my favourite releases of the year. Although I would say that the quality of these films compared to Hitchcock's later works are nowhere near the heights of those films. So do be warned, don't go into this expecting films on the level of those later Hitchcock masterpieces. Number 4 on my list goes to the Bellar Collection from Curzon. This is the complete filmography of Bellar across a number of discs. Many of these films were not available in the UK before this release, and this does include recent 4K restorations of Damnation, as well as Satan Tango and Workmeister Harmonies. I did a full review of this on my channel not too long ago, so do go and check out that video if you want more information about this. But I've been loving what Curzon have been doing with these sets. Very stylish, they feel luxurious, and I could have equally chosen the Peter Strickland box set that they released earlier this year. That is also fantastic. So I was overjoyed with the end result of this, and it is one of my favourite box sets of the year. Number 3 on my list comes from a label that I have been obsessed with this year. The box set in question is this, the Alexander Patushko box from Deaf Crocodile. I have been loving what Deaf Crocodile have been doing this year, and in particular this box set, which was a Kickstarter exclusive, featuring 4 films from Alexander Patushko, these brilliant, colourful, fantastical epics from the Russian filmmaker. This is a beautiful box set featuring new artwork from Tony Stella, and then inside the case you get the 4 films, each with slipcovers which, when you display them together, they spell out the name of the director. The films themselves have been major discoveries for me because I love a good fantasy epic, And these are on the scale that you just don't see made today, with thousands of extras in the battle sequences. And this could only be done with the government backing of the time. The level of imagination and craft that went into these films makes them worth seeing. And Deaf Crocodile have made excellent discs with special features, and they have been one of my favourite labels of the year, and I will be featuring more of their releases very soon. So we come to number 2 on my list of the best box sets of the year. And this one is a very recent release, but I knew as soon as this label announced this release, this was definitely going to be in contention for best box set of the year, unless something occurred where there were some fatal errors with the discs or something like that. But fortunately, that is not the case. And these are films that have been missing on Blu-ray in this country for the longest time, and they are inarguably masterpieces. I am talking about this. Nothing is Sacred. 3 Heresies from Luis Buñuel from Radiance Films. This is such a fantastic box set for a number of reasons. First of all, like I mentioned, you get 3 films here from Luis Buñuel, one of the best filmmakers of all time, and all 3 of these films are masterpieces. Now, of course, that is my opinion on these films, but actually the general consensus on these films is that they are some of the greatest of all time. Just look at any list of the best films of all time. You will probably find at least one of these on that list, possibly even all 3 films. The 3 films that you get in this set, Viridiana, The Exterminating Angel, and Simon of the Desert, are incredible, and they have all been sourced from either new 4K restorations or new 4K scans by Radiance themselves. These films are very provocative, pointing a finger at the Catholic Church and Spanish politics and the government through use of satire and these allegorical stories. Films like The Exterminating Angel, which is about these upper class people who have this fancy party and they have servants there serving them food and drinks. But then when it comes to the end of the night, they all cannot leave. They cannot bring themselves to leave the house, and they then realize that they are trapped. There is something keeping them there, as though there is a magic spell. And then they start to break down. They start to panic, and you see the facade of upper class dignity breaking down as the film progresses. It is both shocking, it is funny, and I think it is one of the best films ever made. The same could be said about Viridiana, about this young woman who is a nun, but she goes to live with her uncle in this massive house after his wife has died, and he is horrible to her. The film explores how the church is not there to help her in any real way, and this leads to extreme consequences. I think it is a fantastic film, a beautiful film, but like I said, quite brutal in certain sequences. And then you get Simon of the Desert, which is a shorter film. It is 45 minutes long, so barely even a feature film at that length. I think that's the cutoff for what you consider a feature. But in that 45 minutes, you get this allegorical story, which I mean, I don't quite get the significance of everything in this film, but we see this man in ancient times who stands on this plinth and does not move from the top of this column. And then there is this even bigger column that is built for him to stand atop of. And throughout the film, he is tempted by the devil, played wonderfully by Sylvia Pinal, who is brilliant in all of these films. So even after shorter length, the film is a masterpiece and has so much to say, and one that I still don't get everything from it, but I find it so watchable, so engaging. Completing this box set, you get a booklet in here, and there are tons of special features across the disc, including some great conversations with Guillermo del Toro and Richard Ayoade, which I loved listening to those. So this is a fantastic box set from Radiance, and to be honest, Radiance have been making the best box sets throughout the year. I could have included so many of the different box sets, like the Dai Gothic films, the World Noir 2 box, the Bounty Hunter trilogy, or the Shinobi box set, or the Agitator box set, the Mocky films. I loved every single one of those releases, and when a Radiance box set comes around, I mean, it is a thing to look forward to. And that's not even going into their single title releases, which I'm going to talk about in another video very soon. So I cannot wait to see what comes from Radiance in 2025, including their very first 4K UHD releases. So there's a lot to look forward to. So now we come to the best Blu-ray box set of 2024. And after watching this box set, it could only ever be this. Not only is this the best Blu-ray box set of 2024, I genuinely believe this is one of the best box sets of all time, of any year. This can stand tall as firmly being one of the best things in my entire film collection. It is this, the Louis Feuillade Crime Serials box set from Eureka, Masters of Cinema. In almost every way, this is the perfect Blu-ray box set. From the packaging and the overall presentation of the box, to the discs themselves, the content, and everything that is included here. There is so much within this box set that the runtime on the back says it is 1,626 minutes. It has taken me a very long time to watch everything in this set since it came out a couple of months ago, but by no means was it a chore because I loved every single minute of this. So what makes this the best Blu-ray box set of the year? And why should you care about this? Well, if you're interested in the history of cinema and how many of the great 20th century filmmakers became inspired from early films, then this is a fantastic place to look. Because for me, this is where cinema began, with Louis Feuillade in the early 1910s. Of course, we can trace the origins of cinema back to the late 1800s, and there are many figures you can point to as being key in the development of film prior to this. However, Louis Feuillade was a figure who, in his filmmaking, you could see he had a clear vision of what cinema could be, both in the present when he was making films, but also looking towards the future. And the construction, the form that he's working with here is exemplary. Across these films, you can see that he had a clear eye for framing and for placing actors within the frame to reveal information about the story and play on dramatic irony. You can say the same for all of the camera movements that he uses. You can say that for the editing, the way he transitions from one shot to another. And beyond even that, he was a pioneer in telling these stories about characters that would become iconic. What he did here is very much the blueprint for the Universal monster movies and how these are characters that we would want to revisit again and again in cinema. And even for modern cinema, the likes of the superhero characters that we follow across all sorts of films, and James Bond, for example, these mythological scale characters that we would follow across a series of films, this all goes back to here, in my opinion. And many of these stories and characters have been readapted over the history of cinema, such as Judex, which has had remakes, and Les Vampires, and even Fantomas. I think they're actually looking at making a new Fantomas series of films right now. So these are very much relevant stories and characters. And I think when you go back to this period and you're looking at silent films and the history of cinema at that point, some of it can feel quite inaccessible to a modern viewer, to a modern audience. However, these are probably the most accessible silent films that I've come across. The box set itself is also beautiful. I love the way the films are kept in here. You've got a booklet in here as well. You get the 4 serials included across 9 discs, and they look excellent. And I loved all of the special features. There's a ton of commentaries as well. So if the actual runtime of the serials wasn't enough, there's so much to get into in the special features on the disc and the booklet. So this was not only a highlight of 2024, but as I said, this is one of the very best box sets ever made, in my opinion. So those were my picks for the top 6 best box sets of 2024. But what did I miss? There were lots that I had to cut out of my list to get it down to 6. I couldn't get it down to 5, but I got it down to 6. But do let me know what were your favourite box sets of the year, and do you agree with me on any of these? Did these stand out to you at all this year? Let me know in a comment below. Click the video that's on screen right now if you want some more reviews and recommendations from me. Until next time, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.